be more peaceful, not more likely to have a war.
Second point, Congressman, you mentioned the tendency of our national leaders historically to say one thing and then do another. They talk peace and they plan for and then move to war. Let's talk about World War II for a moment, if we can. Were we, in your opinion, justified in the end taking the role that we took, or should we have not been involved in that fight between the Axis powers and the other combatants?
No. I think we were absolutely justified. They attacked us, and yet you can't divorce that from history. It's the same thing with: are we justified going after Osama bin Laden and the Al Qaeda after they attacked us? Yes. But should that mean that we shouldn't look at foreign policy and studying the motives behind their anger? I mean, the two are very important. But you can't really study World War II without looking at Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson is really the culprit in this, because he was the one that really finagled us into World War I and redesigned the Middle East, and we're suffering the consequences ever since. And Hitler, I do not believe for a minute Hitler would have been able to rise to power without the Versailles Treaty, and that was part of the Wilsonian neoconservatism, where this ushered in the Hitler regime.
Congressman, you made an appearance on Bill Maher's show last Friday, and I watched that and I enjoyed it. My sense of it is, well, you may very well have alienated hardcore right-wingers, the let's go to war type, who are really active in the Republican Party, and you might have brought some moderate Democrats on board. Is that part of a conscious political strategy that you have? Because right now, I think you'd say, Las Vegas would say, I would say, the odds right now are tilted against you. But you made some impressive points to a different audience on the Bill Maher show.
And of course, we improved our odds in Las Vegas too, from 200 to 1 to 15 to 1. So something's going on. No, I like a president who can also be a bookmaker. I like having a bookie in the White House. I don't have a type of strategy on what I'm doing. The only plan I have is to present a philosophy which I think is very, very American, very, very conservative, very, very constitutional, and very practical. And I think everybody is going to appeal to it. The conservatives ought to have an appeal for this because I'm very conservative. I'm the most conservative member of Congress. I vote for the least amount of spending and taxes. And going into unnecessary wars is hardly conservative. That, to me, is a radical idea. This whole idea of preemptive war, that we go and start wars now and claim that's conservative, is to me very foolish. So I think this is a philosophy that's been around a long time, and it's been chopped up in pieces. Conservatives have a little bit of it, liberals have a little bit of it, moderates have a little bit of it. And I'm just putting the concept of liberty back together and saying limited government is important. Your individual freedom is important. The free market is important, and mind our own business is important in foreign affairs. It's, to me, so logical, and it brings a lot of people together. I think it's a natural coalition, and yet I can, with a clear conscience, defend it all by obeying my oath of office, the Constitution.
Congressman, you talked about individual freedom and the limitations. Then there's a strong philosophical and historical foundation to that, from which I think we can both quickly agree the nation has drifted Republican and Democrat. Is there an inconsistency, however, when you talk about individual freedom? I notice that you are unapologetically pro-life. I happen to be pro-life as well as a Democrat up here in Massachusetts. It's a lonely posture. But I'm pro-life as well, so I'm encouraged to see that. But there are lots of people out there who would say that is on a philosophical collision course with your purported embrace of individual freedom.
I don't think that debate doesn't have anything to do with individual liberty. It has to do with the definition of life. I, as an OB doctor, realize that I have legal responsibilities and medical responsibilities, ethical responsibilities for caring for a life preborn. And I cannot, for the sake of myself, to see the difference between a baby 1 minute before birth and 1 minute after. If I kill the baby 1 minute before birth, I get paid a lot of money. If I kill it 1 minute after birth, I get arrested for murder. There's something awfully inconsistent about that. So yes, you have to define life, and then you defend all life. So once you define life as a human being that might be in utero, it deserves the same protection as the mother. Obviously, this is more controversial, and this is one reason why I don't want it to be solved at the federal level. I don't want the Supreme Court doing it through Roe versus Wade. I want the states to do it differently. If Massachusetts handles this difficult problem differently than Texas, that's the way the system.
That's the federalism. Sure, absolutely. Hey, given that historical and philosophical reference you made a few moments ago, and let me remind the audience, we're talking to Congressman Ron Paul from Texas, one of the candidates for the Republican presidential nomination. He'll be up in New Hampshire at the Republican presidential debate, which will be held next week. He's made some very, very compelling points in the debates and on some of the national television appearances, and is creating his own buzz. We're delighted to have him on 680 RKO on Finneran's Forum. Congressman, you made the philosophical and historical references. I have to ask you, in the 20th century, of all the presidents that served the nation and led the nation, is there one that stands out to you as being most consistent with the Ron Paul doctrines that you've cited?
Only if we can go back to at the end of the 19th,
okay.
Because I'd pick Grover Cleveland.
You'd take Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland, and then it's a little more difficult because the 20th century was downhill for the cause of liberty and the respect for the Constitution. Although there were some that were considered very ineffective, like Calvin Coolidge or somebody, I'm sure they had tremendous respect for the Constitution. But once we embarked on interventionism overseas, which really occurred at the turn of the 19th century into the 20th century, then after the Depression, they blamed capitalism and the gold standard. Then we embarked on socialism and welfareism. So not many of the presidents have reversed that trend, and I think what I'm discovering is that the young people, the generation that's going to inherit all this debt, are waking up, and that's where I have my strongest support, because they're going to be ripped off because they know they're not going to get Social Security, and they know they're the ones who have to fight the wars, and they know they're the ones who are already suffering from not having been able to keep up with the rising standard of living that so many people on Wall Street and other places have. So the young people are starting to realize that the cause of liberty is their cause, and I'm excited about that.